Let me ask you something real. Have you ever looked back on a moment, maybe a week, a year, or even a decade later, and thought, how did I not see it? How did I not notice what was really going on? It could have been a friendship, a romantic relationship, someone at work, even a family member. They seemed like the nicest person in the world. So generous, so understanding, always saying the right things, always showing up with a smile. And yet, little by little, something felt off. Not loud or obvious, not like a slap in the face. More like a quiet leak in the roof. You don't notice it until your ceiling caves in. That's how the most dangerous people operate. They don't show their true face right away. They don't scream, they don't push. They charm you, they earn your trust, they make you feel safe. And then, slowly, they start to move pieces around when you're not looking. And here's the hard truth. Kindness, or what looks like kindness, is the most effective form of manipulation there is. Let that sink in. We were taught since childhood to believe that kindness is always a virtue. That nice people are good people. That if someone is soft-spoken, generous, helpful, they must have a good heart. But life isn't that simple, is it? Because real kindness doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need to be performed. It doesn't expect anything in return. Fake kindness? That's something else. That's a tool. That's a costume. And once you learn to tell the difference, you start to see things you hadn't seen before. You start noticing the little red flags you used to brush off. You start listening to your gut instead of doubting it. Let me give you a few examples. Not from books or theories, but from real life. Have you ever met someone who always agrees with you? Who always says, yes, of course, no matter what you bring up? It feels good at first. You feel seen, validated, like you finally met someone who understands you. But here's the thing. People who always agree with you aren't necessarily being supportive. They might just be gathering information, listening closely, learning your fears, your values, your wounds. Because once they know what matters to you, they know how to control you. Maybe you value honesty, so they'll pretend to be brutally honest with others just to impress you. Maybe you value loyalty, so they'll talk endlessly about how disloyal other people are. Maybe you're afraid of being alone, so they'll make you feel like you're the only person in the world who really gets them. And then, one day, they flip the script. They use your values against you. They bring up your words in arguments. They twist your honesty into cruelty, your loyalty into obsession, your kindness into weakness. And because they've spent so long acting harmless, no one believes you when you try to explain what's really going on. That's how manipulation works when it wears a friendly face. It's not about screaming. It's not about direct attacks. It's about slowly making you question yourself, making you feel like maybe you're overreacting, like maybe you're the problem, like maybe you misunderstood. And here's the worst part. Everyone else around them still thinks they're wonderful, because on the outside, they're charming, polite, helpful, the kind of person who bakes cookies for the office, the kind of person who sends thoughtful texts, the kind of person who never raises their voice. But behind closed doors, they gaslight, they guilt trip, they push boundaries, gently at first, then more and more, until you start feeling confused, anxious, small, like you can't quite breathe. And if you try to talk about it, people say things like, "Oh no, not them. They're the nicest person I know." Exactly, that's the point. The most dangerous people are the ones who build a reputation for kindness, because that reputation becomes their shield. And once they have that shield, they can get away with almost anything. Now, does that mean everyone who's kind is dangerous? Of course not. But it does mean we need to stop being naive. We need to stop assuming that politeness is the same thing as goodness. We need to pay more attention to patterns than to first impressions, because first impressions are easy to fake. Patterns aren't. Let me give you something practical. When someone shows up in your life, whether it's a new friend, a coworker, a neighbor, or a romantic interest, pay attention to how they behave when they don't get what they want. That's the real test. Do they sulk? Do they guilt trip? Do they punish you with silence? Or do they respect your boundary and move on? because anyone can be nice when everything is going their way. The real character shows up when you say no. Another thing to watch for: how do they talk about people they used to be close to? If they have a trail of crazy exes or backstabbing friends, and they never take responsibility for anything, that's a clue. Because if every person in their past ended up being the bad one, odds are they're leaving out some big parts of the story. See, emotionally mature people don't need to tear others down. They don't need to play the victim all the time. They know that relationships are complicated, and they own their part in what went wrong. The dangerous ones, they rewrite history. They play innocent. They make themselves the hero of every story and everyone else the villain. And if you're not careful, you'll end up as just another chapter in that story. So what can you do? How do you protect yourself without becoming cold or closed off? Start with this. Be slow to open your world. You don't owe anyone full access to your mind, your time, or your heart just because they're being nice. Let people earn trust through consistency, not grand gestures, not flattery, not emotional sob stories. Watch how they treat you and others over time. Keep some of your thoughts to yourself. You can be kind without being transparent. You can be warm without giving away your entire soul. There's nothing noble about being an open book for people who are only skimming the pages. And most importantly, listen to your gut. We were born with an instinct for a reason. If something feels off, even if you can't explain it, don't ignore that feeling. You don't need a courtroom-level proof to create distance from someone. You don't need to justify your discomfort to anyone. Because once you've lived long enough, and if you're in your 50s, 60s, or 70s, you know this, you start to realize that peace is more important than popularity, that protecting your energy is more important than pleasing everyone. That saying no is a form of wisdom, not rudeness. You've earned the right to move slower, to be more selective, to ask deeper questions, to trust actions more than words, to stop giving people the benefit of the doubt when all they've shown you is doubt. This is the part of life where you don't have to keep learning the same painful lesson over and over again. This is the part where you step into clarity, not because you've become bitter, but because you've finally started seeing clearly. So here's the takeaway, friend. Be kind, be gracious, but don't let anyone confuse your kindness for blindness. Protect your story, protect your peace, and never forget, the people who smile the widest might be hiding the sharpest knives. Stay awake, stay grounded, and trust yourself more than their performance, because in the end, you don't owe anyone your silence. You owe yourself the truth.